Hello everyone. Today I wanted to take a special look at a particular strategy in Axis and Allies 1914. This is a fan requested video. Recently, a commenter posted on one of my other videos that they would like to hear a little bit more about how Germany might take out France, how they might take on Paris. And that isn't a strategy that I typically employ. It's not something that I really see often. I've never really seen it pursued wholeheartedly, though I've seen a half-hearted attempt or two. So I sat down and started thinking about what would I do if I wanted to play a different style as Germany, if I wanted to focus heavily on France, how would I do that? Now, as you know, if you've seen any of my other videos, I like to use tournament rules. So that means we have movement rules are a little bit different. We get to move two territories from friendly to friendly or friendly to territory that you yourself contest. And it also means that any country, not just Russia, can fall to economic or political collapse. So I thought about how best to take out France. Now, in a one-on-one fight, Germany has a lot more power than France does. So Germany should be able to take out France. The problem is that Germany has its attention focused predominantly in two different directions, Russia in the east and France in the west, and it also has England that can come in and fortify France. There's also the issue that France can concentrate all of its forces along this small border up here, probably Picardy and Lorraine normally, potentially Belgium and Lorraine, just depending on what happens over here. But it can concentrate everything in two spots at most, which makes it difficult for Germany to muscle its way in, especially with the way combat rules work in this game, where you only have one round of combat. It's going to take a lot of time for Germany to force its way through, and that means that that's time England can move in, and eventually the United States can move across the Atlantic and move in. That's not good. So what is the key to doing this? Well, there are two things that we want to keep in mind. We can't do anything about the U.S. It's over here. When it gets in the war, it's going to move into France. I mean, it might move into North Africa, but if you're in any way threatening France, the American player is probably going to try and move into France very quickly and forego North Africa until France is stabilized. Nothing we can do about that. But we can do something about England. And even if we're only setting England back a turn or two, that's still critical time for us because we need to move into France as quickly as possible. Just remember that in the actual world, or actual World War I, I believe the German strategy was to take out France in about 6 weeks. And we want to pursue the same fast, overwhelming tactics if we hope to take Paris out before England and the United States form a shield over there. So first things first, with our Navy, we definitely need to take out this British Navy right here. We have enough, even with those sea mines. We match the British equally in force here. If we move these subs down, we should be able to take that out. Now, you do have two more subs over here in Sea Zone 7. If you're worried, or you want to be extra cautious, you could move those subs up here. They also will have to face those sea mines, but it should give you an even greater force with which to defeat the British Navy. Now, this is something that I mentioned in one of my other videos. You could attempt to go after the French Navy here, especially, I mean, if you're thinking, you know, we want to take out France, so of course I'm going to attack the French Navy, you might try that. I haven't run the odds on it, but that's kind of a risky move. You might take out that battleship and transport, but really, what is it going to do? I mean, maybe they'll come down here and take Portugal, get some, you know, extra units, a few extra production. They might swing down here to try and, you know, fortify the Mediterranean, maybe go after the Ottomans like I talked about in one of my other videos. But unless the Allies are all coordinated, they may not do that. It just depends. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to say, but ultimately, what I like to do is go with the move that isn't quite as risky, going after this British Navy over here. And not only is it not quite as risky, but it also helps us in our strategy. Because let's say that France loses that battleship and transport that it has over here. It can still move all of these units around. It's not going to prevent it from, moving troops up to the front really quickly. It can still do that even without that navy. The only thing that it does is it prevents them from, taking Portugal and moving down into the Mediterranean. Which ultimately, if our plan works out, they can move their fleet in the Mediterranean. It's really not going to make a huge difference because we'll be overwhelming their defenses. Even if maybe they can shift a few units from down here up into Europe, it isn't really going to matter. England, on the other hand, has all these forces over in Canada. I mean, it only has one transport, but it can start moving them over. On the first turn, if we take that out, then it's no longer able to do that. England is going to have no navy in the North Atlantic or in the Atlantic, anywhere, and it's going to need at least a turn to build transports, and then so it won't be able to get anything over to France till turn 2, assuming that it immediately tries to build up its navy, at the end of its first turn, and isn't drawing forces away to fight the Ottomans. And Germany you are still going to have some sort of a navy up here with which you can cause some trouble for England if it doesn't devote enough to rebuilding its navy. Now let's say that it decides to focus on the Ottomans. Well, that's great, because your little navy up here should be able to take out whatever navy the British build on their first turn. And if the British player goes heavy navy over here trying to put down enough on the first turn so that you can't wipe them out, well, it should give the Ottomans some peace, which is still good for you. Now, I'm not going to talk about exactly, like, you should move 3 infantry here and 2 artillery there, but on mainland Europe, but instead I want to talk about just general concepts and your overall positioning and what you want to do with your land forces. So I've gone back and forth when I've thought about this. Is taking Switzerland a good idea or not? And I've thought about, well, if Austria can somehow take Venice on turn 1, then Germany can double move down there, and that's pretty much the end of Italy. And I believe that taking out France, overwhelming France, the key to that, aside from preventing foreign reinforcements from coming in, is to take out Italy. The key to it, really, is Piedmont right here. Why do I say that? Well, because even without Switzerland, let's say Germany has Belgium and it has Alsace and it has Piedmont. Make note of the 4 French territories on their eastern, there is their eastern front and Germany's western front. If you control those 3 territories as Germany, you now threaten 4 French territories, which means not only do you have overwhelming force in terms of units and production, but now France has to defend more territories. It can't defend them all. You can pick the weak ones and just start hammering away. And if France loses 8 of its core production, so if you contest those 4 territories, France is now in economic collapse. They can't build in Paris. You're going to be able to overwhelm them. Now, the reason that I'm hesitant when it comes to Switzerland is that, yes, if you take that, you have extended the French front. Now they have to defend 3 territories, but you've also extended your own front into 3 territories. So it isn't really a net gain for you overall. Ultimately, Burgundy is the key territory because it borders almost every single French territory. In fact, the only territory it doesn't border is Brest over here. If you can take Burgundy, France is going to be in a world of hurt. Now, Switzerland does give you access to Burgundy, and I've been thinking about, what the best way is to do it, and the more I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking it might be best to move troops up into Belgium, move troops down into Switzerland on turn 1, position some troops up here, over here to continue moving forward, and then just defend Prussia and Silesia, maybe send some units over here into Galatia. The goal there would be just to get Russia to back off on its turn 1. Well, it'd be its turn 2, really, because its turn 1 is before Germany's. But if you can prevent Russia, position yourself so Russia backs off, thinking it needs to defend Poland and Ukraine early in the game, then you might be able to buy yourself an extra turn or two before they realize what's going on the Western Front and start pushing in on you. Now, I mentioned before, I think the key to taking out France is Italy, and that's because of the whole Piedmont situation. Now, I've done the math on it, and unless Austria rolls really well, I don't think it's very likely they're going to be able to take out Venice. But what can happen, because both Austria and Germany go before Italy, Austria can contest Venice and take Tuscany. Germany can move into Switzerland, which means on the second turn it can either help Austria take out Venice, or it can move into Piedmont if Italy moves too many forces away. And like we said, Piedmont is the goal. And with the loss of Piedmont and Austria coming in over here into Venice and Tuscany, Italy's probably going to suffer economic, if not political, collapse very quickly. And now you have Germany up here, and then you have Austria with at least some forces over here. It's going to be extremely difficult for France to defend, and then you just start marching forward. Even if it's just one territory at a time, if France is smart, they're going to notice that Burgundy is the key. They're probably going to defend that heavily. Picardy, not quite as heavily, and Marseille is probably the least valuable, simply because it doesn't touch Paris. I mean, Burgundy, we know why it's valuable. Picardy isn't as much, but it borders Paris. Marseille is, of those three, isn't nearly as important. And I mean, I guess that leaves Lorraine, but ultimately you're forcing France to defend 4 territories, whereas Germany has 3, maybe 4 potentially, but also has Austro-Hungarian help. You're preventing England from getting in the war. You're at least slowing them down by a turn or two. Ultimately, the key to taking Paris isn't, I believe, trying to march a huge force in here, because you're going to have England, you're going to have the United States. The French player is going to see it coming. If you're only coming from one direction, they're easily, or much more easily, going to be able to put up some sort of wall in your place, or position, or in your way, or position themselves to try and counterattack the closer and closer you get. But if you overwhelm them because of all the territories you could attack, and they try to defend everything at once, or they leave themselves open because they're too concerned about losing other territories, they leave a territory particularly weak, you can move in there. I think that it's important when you use this strategy that Austria pursue Venice very heavily, sending almost everything that they can into there, aside from perhaps a couple units that are going to get ferried across into Tuscany. That may mean that they don't have quite as much to go into Serbia. They do want to send some there and then fortify into Galatia. You definitely do not have extra units as the Austrians, and I don't see Germany having extra units either in this place, because you need to make sure that Russia feels the need to back off for a turn. The Russian player can't feel like you're going to ignore them, otherwise they'll try some sort of offensive move probably early on in the game, which is going to throw you off Germany. You need to put the screws to Italy as quickly as possible so that you can get Piedmont, so you can get that strategic location and potentially knock them out of the war, leaving Austria able to just move troops across to help you out there. And you've got to take out the British Navy. You can't afford for England to start fortifying France You're on a very short, very strict timetable, and you can't afford for foreign troops to come in there and slow you down. You've got to put the screws to Italy so you can put the screws to France as quickly as possible if you want to make this work. So after studying the game, just kind of looking at the border between Germany and France, and factoring in Italy and Austria, which are going to be the other lesser players in this whole takeout France strategy, that is what I would recommend. I think that that has a very strong possibility of success. Like I said, this is not a strategy I personally employed. This is just me studying the game, looking at what I think would work. If I wanted to pursue a excuse me, I can't talk, a France first strategy, I think that is how I would go about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this will be useful to many of you out there. If you have any other thoughts, any other strategies you would like to see, any other ideas you'd like to bounce off of me, well, how would country X accomplish goal Y? How would Austria-Hungary do this? How would Russia do that? How would England do something else? Let me know in the comments section. I'll give it some thought and see if I can put something together that shows how your country of choice might pursue that particular goal. I hope you enjoyed this video.